Hey guys, welcome to Beyond Sunday Podcast, where we desire to take the conversation deeper. And today, in this episode, we get to be in person and have this conversation and discussion. And so excited about that. But how are you doing today?
I'm good.
Good.
How are you?
I'm great.
Okay.
Yeah. Before we dive into the conversation, take a look at this video. Dive into the conversation. What's the big idea, Shreya? What scriptures do we have for this Sunday, and maybe where it went and where it didn't go? It's kind of how this one seemed to play out.
Yeah. So we're in this series of this journey of formation. So as we're walking with Jesus, which has been our overall kind of theme, we're on this journey of formation. And so in this one, it's this idea that there's actually a reason to celebrate. And I don't know, this is funny because a year ago when we put this together, what we said was Jesus gives us reason to celebrate, which is absolutely true. For me, though, now in this season, in this moment, this was like, as I was reading the scriptures and preparing, it was more like, we need to be a people who celebrate and who express gratitude and who call out the things God has done, because when we're in a season where maybe life is hard or things are rough, that's what helps us trust God for what's going forward. And it's also what we were designed for. And so, yeah, that idea of like, are we a people who celebrate and who express gratitude?
Yeah. Yeah. So our text, well, we had many texts, but for me, I landed in Luke 17, which was the story of Jesus coming upon these 10 lepers, and they cry out to him, "Have mercy on us, Jesus." And he tells them to go report or show themselves to the priest, and then they go on their way. As they're going, they're healed.
Right.
And one recognizes that their leprosy has been healed, and rather than continuing on to the priest, return to Jesus, bow at his feet, praising him, worshiping him, offering thanksgiving and gratitude to Jesus. And we had other scriptures in the Revised Common Lectionary, but for me, I couldn't. God was like, this right here, this part, don't move past it. It was only what 8 verses, but there's just so much in there that I mean, on Sunday I couldn't unpack all of it. There was so much more depth in what was going on in that story, but along the lines of celebrating, returning to Jesus, offering thanksgiving and gratitude, because for the man who had leprosy and was healed for this healing, but received a greater gift. For me, it was like, do I even slow down enough to return to Jesus, to offer that kind of gratitude and thanksgiving, or am I on to the next thing? Yes, there are times I spend grieving and mourning the loss, but do I spend time celebrating just the goodness of God and who he is and what has taken place in the midst of following him?
Right. Yeah. We were pretty much just in 17 also, although we also talked about Isaiah 40, which wasn't a lectionary scripture, but part of the thing for us this Sunday was we had a couple people come and share testimony from the PNA Connect that we had been at the week before, which was our big district gathering. And in that, a couple gals from our church who had gotten to come and be part of that and just had experienced God in a powerful way in that space. And so they came and shared, and so we talked about Isaiah 40, which is what the theme of that time together had been, because it's actually the same concept of the Israelites are like, you've forgotten us. We're here. You're not as powerful as we thought you were. You've forgotten us, or you don't care, or whatever. And God, this reminder all throughout that chapter of like, don't forget who I am and what I've done. And that's what celebrating and gratitude helps us do. It helps us cement in our memory, and it helps us keep the right picture of reality. And so that was kind of how we started out Sunday. And then, yeah, in that story that Jesus tells in Luke, this like, or in what takes place in Luke, where it's actually while all 10 men are obeying, it's in the act of obedience that they're physically healed. So Jesus says, go see the priest, and they obey. There's no question, they just do it. And in the act of obedience, their physical bodies are healed. And so there's something in that for me, because then there's the contrast that one of them stops, comes back, celebrates and praises. And it's actually in the act of celebration and gratitude where Jesus says, okay, now your faith has made you, and that, I want to give a Greek word, but that Greek word there, that is like, this is not just a physical healing, but there's a wholeness, a wellness. And so for me, that felt like, okay, in the act of obedience, they all receive physical healing. That's evidence of God's goodness. In the act of celebration and gratitude, now there's a wholeness and a completeness, a shalom, that exists for this one. And so then I wonder if that wouldn't be true for us too. And so there is an obedience, like we are called to be a people of obedience, because it's in obeying the laws that we can actually dwell and be with God. Like that's what allows us to do that. And it's in the gratitude and the celebration that we find that wholeness and that completeness. And so that.
And I think it too, in this story in Luke 17, it matters when Jesus calls attention that this is a Samaritan, who is returned. It doesn't say that they're all Samaritans, but maybe they're going through Samaria. And it's no accident that Jesus is not going around Samaria to get to Jerusalem. He's going through it, which is not a typical thing that a Hebrew or a Jewish person would do. Jesus goes through, he encounters these lepers, and he calls attention that a Samaritan returns, because for Jewish ears, for Hebrews, they're like, this isn't a person who's worthy. One, unclean with leprosy. Two, a Samaritan not worthy of the gift, the salvation that comes from the Messiah.
Right.
But he's calling attention that your faith has made you well. Your faith has completed this whole part. Yes, the physical healing, but also the internal one, the salvation that the Messiah offers. And that's what he's calling attention to. So even in this story, there are, again, like so many different layers to what Jesus is doing in this story and with this individual and with with the 10 lepers, but also to what speaks to us today. That we can determine that some are not worthy or some aren't worth it, and we create borders or boundaries that Jesus is not interested in following. God's kingdom isn't interested in being held into man-made borders or parameters, or like, oh, unclean, or oh, unworthy, or whatever it is that we prescribe upon people. Jesus and God's kingdom is unconcerned by that.
Yeah. Which is more reason to celebrate.
Yes.
Because we are all that.
Well, and that draws me to even Isaiah 40, is lift your eyes up. Don't you see? He's an everlasting God. And like what even Isaiah 40 is calling out to of, yes, you're in a hard situation, a hard moment, and it is hard, and it will continue to be so. Don't forget, this is who God is.
Right.
Don't miss out that this is who God is and what he has promised to do.
Yeah. And celebrate what he's done, and also celebrate who he is.
Yeah.
I think that's something we've talked about even. I feel a little bit like, I don't know, we've been on this sounds dumb, but for the last couple of years, couple of years, just intentional with calling out God's goodness more than I ever had been before. And the big things and the small things, and to the point of like, sometimes even in the middle of the day, like, hey, do you have a minute? Something's too good not to share is the phrase that gets used, right? And in that one part of what we have said, that like the good things that God gives, he's not good because he gives good things. The good things are evidence of his goodness. And that matters because that it's like the character and just the very nature of who God is good, which is where even the practice of Danu comes in, where it's like it would have been enough. Actually, God is enough, period. And yet he gives, like he gives good things and he keeps giving good things. And those are all evidence of a God who's good, but he's good, period. He's good because that's who he is.
Yeah. So these stories too good not to share. I've got one
right now.
Yes.
That you didn't tell me already? Or you're just gonna share it with everybody? Okay, I'll act surprised. Go ahead.
Oh, thanks. Good actor.
I'm gonna be so good at this.
Okay. Right to your face.
Shut up.
Okay. So after church, I had two come up to me and were like, we showed a testimony video, a story of some of our churches navigating some really hard situations. There's no bow on it. It's not finished. There still is hard to be navigated, even more so than what's currently existing. And yet, she calls out the goodness of God, God blessing her, caring for her, loving her, and that's what she calls out in the testimony. And so I had these two come up to me after service, and they're like, we God has impressed upon us. There is something that God has been working in us since before summer, so springtime, May or whatever, that to impressed upon them to tell the stories of God's goodness, to not miss or offer a platform or opportunity to tell the stories that are too good not to share. Let's send it to the masses, if you will, right? And don't miss moments that we can um, call out God's goodness. We can brag on him, and we can know that we're held in his sight, and he holds us like a good shepherd. And so anyway, they're telling me this, and I'm like, that's awesome. They're like, well, pray about it and let us know. And I was like, I don't have to.
I don't need to, actually.
I don't have to pray about it because
not because we don't value asking God, but
because it was a confirmation of something God had seeded within me and us, and even Elmer a year and a half ago, in wanting to tell these stories. And we even started recording a few episodes in this other podcast of telling your story. And it was in that same vein. There are people who have a story to tell. Well, we all do, but ones where people recognize, like, oh, God is so good. And even like in the story that was told on Sunday, there's no bow. More hard things are to come, and yet God is good and blesses and is faithful. And so I was like, yeah, I don't need to pray about it. You've confirmed something God has seeded in me that had to get shelved for a while because other things, just responsibility and priority of like, I'd love to do that. I can't. And I don't have the space and time or the ability. And yet these two, since May, have been walking this out, and they've come to a place of like, okay, we're not stopping. We're going to keep going in this. Because there are these God stories to tell, that are too good not to share. So that was it would have been enough. And yet God still is like, no, I've got more. You thought that thing that I seeded and was watering had died, or you had to shelf it, and maybe you would get back to it, maybe you never would. And here are two who have been, the same thing as seemed to be has been seeded for them. Tell these stories. Tell the stories of God's goodness. And his provision and
Yeah.
his love.
Yeah. Which I think, and uh that idea of, so when we tell those stories, that's what we're doing. We're celebrating what God's doing, right? And there's gratitude in the telling of like, God, like, we're recognizing where you've worked and moved, and we're grateful for a God who works and moves. And I, in that, not only the like, so we called out like the man gets healed in, it's through the act of celebrating and praise and gratitude, right? But not only that, the it quiets it dispels the darkness, maybe that's the word. Part of Sunday for us, Sunday was kind of a wild day because we had this, right, we're going to give this message on celebrating and God's goodness. I've got two people who are going to share a really powerful testimony, and Sunday morning, I woke up, I don't know, at 5:45, and from that moment literally until 10 a.m. and even through our service, it was like one thing after another. I mean, we had like multiple people being taken to the hospital and urgent care, and just like all of these things. And so it felt just like what is happening, oh, to the point where we're like, this is too obvious. These are attacks. It's too obvious to miss that. And at one point, um, after literally the third person was being taken to urgent care, Andy he goes, you know what? If the devil's going to be loud today, we're going to be louder in the way that we praise. And it just, that was the switch of like, yeah, you know what? Like, you can be as loud as you want, but we will be louder. And we were low in numbers on Sunday because everybody was at the hospital. But the people were loud in the way that they were singing and praising. At one point, I took my in-ears out and I was just like, oh my gosh, the voices of God's people praising. And that's what even something like the podcast that they're talking about, what we've talked about, even just I think even in the quiet spaces where it's one person to another, where it goes, I have to tell you something. Mm-hmm. This is too good to not share. And every time that happens, it's like, enemy, you be quiet. Mm-hmm. You don't get to have a word here in this place.
But also ushers us into the fullness of what this man experienced coming back to Jesus and worshiping him. That it was Jesus and his disciples, yes, but that really it was this individual in Jesus.
Yeah.
And when we get to do that, maybe it's in some ways I sense or feel like he's here in the room with us. He's pulled up a chair.
Right. Well, he will inhabit the praises of his people.
Yeah.
So when we praise, God is there and in that and shows up.
Yeah.
So good.
Very good. All right. So as we wrap this up, what would you say is Kairos from Sunday that you're hearing from God and how he's inviting you to respond?
Yeah. So this week for me, it's the obvious one, but it's really practical. I feel like a lot of times on the podcast, we sit in the front end of a Kairos because it's just happened. God's just speaking. But for me this time, there's very much the like, here's how we're going to respond, because and some of this has been maybe cooking for a while or whatever, but even on Sunday morning, part of what I was sharing is that Jamie and I, so we just wrapped up the market season. We spend 6 months, our church spends 6 months out of the year, once a month involved in the community market. And at this last one, we were talking about like, okay, next year, what are some things we want to do differently, and what are the plans? And one of the things that Jamie and I had talked about was actually creating a space for our community to show gratitude, recognizing that like not everybody in our context, or not everybody in our community, our neighborhoods, are followers of Jesus, but everybody, like this idea of like, what are you grateful for today? This is universal, right? And even to like the science of when we're grateful, what that does. I know, just
I'm ready.
Yeah. Okay. I knew you were going to do that. I don't know what it is, but I do know there's science behind it.
Oh, you're just claiming science.
No, the people can look it up. It's fine. Do your own research.
The science of gratitude.
Here's what I know. Yeah.
Okay.
It's good for you.
I imagine.
Everybody knows this. Okay, shut up. Anyways, so what we had talked about was like, hey, next year what we want to do is have a big like banner kind of thing that says Fairwood is grateful for. And so every month at the market, there's a space for people to like, just tell us something you're grateful for in this space. And whether they're recognizing that, hey, like those good things are gifts from a God who loves you or not, there's a space to just start practicing, like, what are the things that you're grateful for? And then that might also open conversation or open space for conversation, right? So I'm sharing that on Sunday. And as I'm sharing that, it was like this, okay, so why aren't we doing that? Like, that's great. And that's for the community. And that starts in May at the next market or whatever. But are we as a church family right now, is this something we have an intentional practice of?
Yeah.
And so then even in that space, and we were talking more about this last night, but in fact, we were in this church last night, like, okay, where are we going to put this? But creating a space where like, this is actually something we're going to do, where very regularly, like every week, there's an opportunity to come in and go, it would have been enough, but here's where I saw God show up and show off this week. And then out of that, even like conversation last night, somebody this week had sent a text and was like, hey, I just had this thought, like, what if the church had, I don't know, she was talking about like car decals or bumper stickers or something, but with not with the information about our church, but an invitation to pray. So if somebody saw your sticker or whatever, and it was like, hey, can we pray for you? Here's a QR code or whatever. As we were talking about it last night, and I don't know that the car thing is the thing, but it was like, how else could we invite our community to start being grateful before May? Yeah. And so sitting down and having some of those, it feels like very practical, tangible, like, okay, if what you're telling me this week is that there's wholeness and completeness and a spiritual healing in the act of praise and gratitude, then how do we start doing that right now? It doesn't feel like something that has to sit or simmer, really. It's like, no, actually, we're going to start being a people who do that now. And we're going to invite the community into that, whether they recognize what that is or not. Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
Good. It makes me excited for our Grateful Gathering.
Yeah.
That's in the Wednesday in November, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And that sounds confusing,
it's okay.
But in the last, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years, we've created a grateful chain. That in the paper chain that locks together of these are places of thanksgiving and gratitude, and that just keeps growing.
Yeah.
Right. And it does have a sense of like, these are the celebrations, the gratitude, the thanksgiving, the prayers that are lifted up or offered up to Jesus in the way that this leper who was healed now comes and returns to celebrate and offer gratitude and thanksgiving. So for me, my Kairos is it was out of a question at the end of Sunday that still lingered with me into this week is where have I left celebrating and thanksgiving and gratitude to Jesus on the table, and I've moved on? Where have I left it and didn't return, and in what spaces is that, and what might it look like if I were to slow down or to stop long enough and faithfully return, obediently return and praise Jesus? And that's where that's the Kairos of that. Where are these spaces that I've just moved on to the next thing? And actually I would receive far more if I stopped and took time to celebrate and offer gratitude and thanksgiving. Instead, I can find myself in times returning to the work that needs to be done. And so that's a convicting Kairos, and one that convicting in the way of like, here's how I have operated. Here's an invitation to do something different, and something actually that is far greater. So, yeah. Well, guys, thanks for being with us on this episode. We hope and pray that you guys are having conversations that go beyond Sunday and hearing from God, and and discerning what it is that he's inviting you into, and taking faithful steps to continue moving closer to him. Have a great week.